Hi Maggie, it's such an honor seeing you in Romania. Welcome here. How was your stay?
Oh, it's been so exciting, so exciting. I've learned so much. I've met so many beautiful humans. It's been great.
And we learned a lot from you. We just came from your conference and it was, first of all, hilarious because we parents need a little relief because everything is so stressful. So that is my first question. Because you talked about the temperament of boys and girls and the difference in introvert, extrovert, and all that stuff. Can you give us just one piece of advice for mothers of boys and girls, maybe separate advice, how to be able to cope better with their type of kids?
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing is that parenting has always been different, right? So what's happened is the world has actually made parents busier, and there's almost too much information for them to be able to work out how do I be the parent my child needs. And that's one of the things that we heard yesterday with both Gordon Neufeld and Dan Siegel is it's not what we do, it's how we be. And so our kids still need parents. The first thing they all need is to know that they are connected and loved. I think we keep thinking, what should I do to help them be better at school? What should I do to help them socialize? What should I do? And so often that means we're project managing our children instead of really attuning into the child we have, which is why I spoke about those differences. And I heard so many come up to me today saying, finally I've got an understanding because I've been comparing my two kids through a deficit lens because of the gentle lamb and the rooster, realizing they need slightly different versions of me as the parent to allow them to be who they've come here to be. So I think that's what I'm really passionate about. If you have rooster children, you are going to be tired up, exhausted.
It's not that you are the same parent with all your child.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Different.
To meet the different needs. And also, we can't meet all the needs of our kids. It's a really important reminder that there is no perfect. And our children don't need perfect parents. We know that at times when things are hard, our kids learn to go through hard times. But when we overprotect them from hard times, they never get to experience them. And that's why sometimes big feelings and meltdowns over, the wrong cup, all of those little things, we can just think, how do I stop that? Whereas when we see it as developmentally healthy and normal for that age, and it's a stage we've got to go through, I think we change how we react.
About that, what you said, I remember something you said in the conference which was very eye-opening, it's avoidance.
Yes.
Because when the kid wants the red cup, give him the red cup so he doesn't melt down. But this is not healthy.
No.
Tell us why.
Yeah. Okay, so what we know is that where anxiety comes from, it's where something turns up, or I think something's going to turn up that may not turn up. So it's like, and we have a lot of school reluctance around the world at the moment, flow on from COVID and things like that. But also our more sensitive children have less bravery. So let me give a really good example. You can have a sensitive child whose best friends are at the birthday party, and you get to the door of the birthday party and they don't want to go in. And so normally as a parent you think, oh well, they're not ready for that, I'll take them home. But that's actually the worst thing you can do right now. That's an opportunity to help them just enough. So we say, okay, so I can see this is really hard for you right now. So you've got your early warning system, because that's actually supposed to be working. So instead of just leaving, what we're going to do, I'm here to keep you safe. We're going to go into the party for just 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes, if you feel the same, we'll go home. Because you know what happens as soon as they open the door? They're absolutely okay. So it's these little moments of bravery. And when we build that gradually, our most sensitive children who are prone to worry and concern can definitely get bravery. But when we just say, oh, they're not ready for that, we won't do that, then the avoidance is teaching that early warning system that avoidance is the best thing for me as I go forward in life.
They're going to be more and more afraid.
Yes. Yeah.
And
The same with starting school and those sorts of things, because it's supposed to be anxious. It's new. The brain has not been with that teacher or in that environment with that group of students. So it's normal to be anxious until the brain sees, oh, now I know what's happening now. So we're building the sense of predictability gradually. So it's why we have to keep preparing them. Can we visit the teacher? Can we check out the classroom? Where's the toilet? And what goes in the bag? Can they open their lunch lid? So in other words, we build their capacity to cope rather than assuming that all kids should be able to cope.
That you, because you talked about school. So I want to approach a subject which is very sensitive about boys as well, because I have the same opinion that most education systems are built for girls and can sit in a bench and listen for long periods of time and become very nice and do the right thing. But boys are not like that.
All right, so we know there are some really specific cognitive reasons as well why our boys are behind our girls cognitively starting. So the assumption that it's one size fits all, that is the core problem with education. Because remember we talked today, some of our children might be neurodivergent, which means they have different sensory needs, right? And every day they turn up with a different ability to cope. We call it fluctuating capacity. But if you're not aware of that as a teacher, then that makes that harder, doesn't it? You think, oh, that child, why on earth they did that yesterday, why can't they do it today? Why can't a boy sit still on a mat for 20 minutes? And we know there's reasons why. And then when that little boy starts to fidget because his dopamine level, the engagement level in his brain starts dropping because movement helps keep it there, then he starts to move to make more. But sometimes our teachers see that as bad behaviour, and I now punish the boy for being bad when in actual fact he was trying to create more dopamine so I can hear the end of the story. So when we change that lens, then the boys that need to squirm can sit towards the back a little, and we don't shame them for needing to move. It is actually exactly what most boys' bodies need to do. And I think, you know, I'm fighting really hard to change that lens around how we perceive how our kids learn best, but we absolutely know the number one thing is relational safety. So when our little boys think the teacher likes them, oh my goodness, it makes such a difference to how hard they try. Whereas most girls they know how to work it, even if they think they just, shall we say, manipulate with love. And so it's one of those things, because that makes a boy feel unsafe, we're actually more fragile in our school environments, which triggers stress. Stress often comes out as physicality, which is perceived as bad behaviour.
And
Right.
on top of that,
Punish them again.
punish them without and not let them into the break.
Oh, yeah, which then, you know, the break is where they create more dopamine and release the stress of the, I know, right? And the science shows it, but shifting behaviourism in our schools, it's like trying to turn the Titanic around with a finger. But I'm not going to give up trying.
Yeah, we shouldn't either. I have one more question, because it's something that in this time we are living is very anxious for parents. Screens. I know you didn't talk about screen directly, but I want to ask this question. How do we introduce screens to kids? At what age? And how can we gradually do that?
Yeah.
And how can we have balanced consumption?
So the first thing we need to know is that to raise healthy children in the first 5 years of life, we've already known how to do that. Right, so what happens when screens displace what normal behaviour is? Then we're going to have some gaps in their development. So what we've always done is that children have been raised in communities where there's lots of play, autonomous and free in the natural world, with multi-age kids of all genders with potential risk, which is exactly how our kids learn all sorts of things. But the movement is fundamentally a really big thing that screens displace. So we know we've had a massive increase in myopia, around 62 to 65% in the Western world. And what does that mean? It's not the screen's fault. It's the fact they're not running around outside under 3 with their eyeballs adjusting to distances, which is how they distract their eyeballs. So we've really got to look at the less we can hand over small screens to young children, the better. TV's not the problem. TV's at a distance. Kids often move around with TV. If it's high quality children's programs like Bluey, it's not going to do any harm at all. Even a few more hours than you think, right? But what we actually have to make sure is we don't displace, because of our phones, storytelling, talking, communicating, nursery rhymes, all the fun stuff. That is the stuff that is dropping because we're busy on phones and we're handing over small devices. So we notice that we've got kids with less vocab, we've got kids with worse fine and gross motor skills, which means they can't write, fall out of chairs. So we know all that. So we know that if you're going to give a screen to a child, it's going to be a very small amount of time. I just really think we've got to be mindful that that worldwide web access is the biggest problem, other than displacement of movement. So gradually, we would start introducing it when there are some things that benefit their development, but we do it with another human, so it's a relational experience that a child's doing. This is the relationship that's most important. And gradually, schools, as I said, we thought that technology was going to improve educational outcomes. It hasn't. In Australia, our educational outcomes have dropped. So we've now got schools starting to pull back on handing over devices in under year 5. And then we're going to gradually introduce it. And as we introduce it, we teach how to be safe. We teach how to be respectful. We teach how to spot harm. Right? So it's, instead of just handing it over, we've realised now that's caused all sorts of other problems. So I think it's that less is more, and then gradually, intentionally, and then what are they doing? Yep. So you'll know in Australia we're delaying social media for our under 16s. Yeah, and that is because we know the amount of harm that's happening in that space. Yep. That doesn't mean they can't watch YouTube. That doesn't mean to say they can't watch their TikTok dances. They just can't have an account, because that's where the algorithms mess with our kids. And it's been exciting on this journey. Watch how it's shifting our culture. Kids who are 10, 11 and 12 are not asking for phones because they know basically it's linked, but we're looking at dumb phones, we're looking at messenger apps that don't have algorithms. We've got kids calling up on their mum's phone on the messenger app to talk to their friends. They're talking on phones. We're trying to get landlines back. So it might sound really silly, but what we're looking at is we know connection matters, but we want healthy connection, so our kids aren't being harmed. So I'm pretty excited at some of the shifts that we're already starting to see.
I wish that will come sooner.
We hope so.
Because it's so important. Now, I want to thank you. And just one small question at the end. If you would see Maggie at 20, 25, when you have 2 or 3 or even 4 kids already, but still young and small kids and struggling, because I know you did and anybody does, what would you say to them?
Oh, look, I think for me, because I had a really difficult childhood with my mum, I knew I wasn't going to be that sort of a mum. So I had to let go, and I'm really glad I didn't put a tidy house ahead of my relationship with my boys. And I also stayed at home for the first 7 years, even though I ran my husband's business and I wasn't doing nothing. But I actually was more around home, and I want to say thank you for doing that. I really want to say thank you, because I know all my other teaching friends went back. Mind you, I kept reading, so I had more babies. Some of them left their kids with me, so I had a family daycare. So I want to go back and say thanks for doing that. Thanks for prioritising play and chaos. And thanks for, once again, being able to be kind to yourself and laugh at all those mistakes you made. And I made so many mistakes that I share willingly, because I needed to know that that imperfect parent that I had been, that I judged myself for, was actually the good enough parent that the science now shows we need to be. And I want to tell her she didn't do too bad a job, even though she forgot some and forgot book week and all those other things. Left you at the pool. He reminds us still that he got left at the pool. Remember, you left me at the pool. Have you told everyone you left me? Yeah, I did.
we left the girl at the kindergarten. I thought that
Yeah,
husband
yeah.
and he thought I did.
It's so easy to do,
Of course.
right? And I feel that's one of the things that the more busy we get, the more likely we will drop the ball along. But instead of coming in with judgment and harshness, I think we will need to embrace each other. I'd love we could redo the village. We can just spend more time together. And now, weekends used to be adult sport and the kids all hung around us. And now what is it? Hours of organised sport, or you've got them on a screen so you can get the other ones too, and it's like we've lost the weekend. Lost the weekend.
Let's not lose
Yeah.
the childhood because
No.
this is your message. I want
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
it's not
Childhood matters. Make sure your child has a child that they can look back on, not just an overscheduled, overmanaged journey.
very good message. Thank you so much.